To the markets, Walmart surging after reporting stronger than expected same-store sales growth. The company also raised its guidance. More shoppers heading to the store at a time where some others are struggling. This comes at a time when many are questioning the health of the economy and the American consumer. To former Reagan economic advisor Art Laffer on if our economy is on track. Art, one thing that's standing out to me with corporate earnings, the Federal Reserve, and then today's Philadelphia Fed, a lot of anticipation of a huge surge in our economy in the second half. I'm not sure what everyone's basing this on, but do you sense that as well?
No, I don't at all. I mean, there has been no major change in policies whatsoever. And why would the economy all of a sudden surge if there's no change in the environment in which it's operating? It just won't. I mean, what you're really seeing perhaps on the markets is at some stage they're anticipating an election and a change in policies going forward, maybe starting in mid-2017 on, Charles. And if things go well, I can imagine the market doing extremely well. But I don't see why the economy would do any much better than it has been doing, given there's no change in policies.
What about the notion that wages are beginning to inch up a little bit? Maybe people are getting just slightly more confident that the Great Recession is over, and if they've got a job, they'll keep it. And the American consumer, two-thirds of the economy is stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, the Great Recession's been over for, what, 7 years now? I mean, it's just the single worst recovery in U.S. history. And the reason it's the worst recovery is because we've raised taxes, we've had terrible monetary policy, and we've done all sorts of regulations that have restricted this economy and kept it from growing the way it should have, Charles. And it's just a tragedy that all these people have not gotten jobs because of government policies. Yeah. But that's the truth. And when you look at it, I don't see any indicators out there that tell me anything is doing better than just stumbling along and growing with population growth.
So, Art, how do you reconcile the notion that Wall Street is comfortable with Hillary Clinton, who's going to actually double down on these taxes? She's going to hike taxes even more. She's going to add even more regulation, and she's really going to push with the idea of redistribution of wealth. Why does it seem that Wall Street is comfortable with this?
I don't think Wall Street is comfortable with it, but, you know, whatever they say, they can say. I mean, these may be the CEOs and special ones because they get a lot of news coverage when they go and say stuff like this. But bottom line, I think that if Hillary is elected versus Trump, I think the stock market will perform a lot worse than it would if Trump were elected and put in the pro-growth policies that he's espousing. So that's Wall Street to me, is the stock market. And I don't think the stock market will do better under Hillary than it would do under Donald Trump. I think it'll do a heck of a lot better under Donald Trump.
Let me ask you then, let's go the other way with this conversation because, again, if it wasn't for this uptick, a slight uptick in some consumer spending and maybe wages, you could easily argue we'd be in a recession. Certainly businesses are in an investment recession. You're not going to fork out any money under this sort of backdrop, regulatory backdrop that you described. How likely would it be that a Hillary Clinton presidency would bring on a renewed serious recession, not what people are feeling, the status quo of lower wages, but something worse?
You know, the problem with talking about a serious recession under Hillary Clinton's presidency is that we already are in the depths really way, way down. It's the slowest recovery. We're like flat on our backs as an economy. How can you fall further when you're already flat on your back? You really can't. The whole thing about policies now, unless it's super extreme like in Venezuela or something, but if it doesn't change, all we'll do is just stay here and never grow again. That is the real threat to the U.S. economy, is no growth over the next 8 years or 4 years. And that would be the Great Recession all over again. We have never recovered, Charles, from the Great Recession. We've just bobbled along literally at the growth in population. Nothing more than that. I mean, when you're talking about real GDP growth rates of 1–2%, right, you're talking about no catching up whatsoever. If we had had the Reagan recovery, we would have 12.4 million more jobs today than we have. If we'd have had the Reagan recovery, we'd have $4+ trillion more worth of real GDP. That's where the recovery, that's where we're missing each and every year. We're losing these, and employment is a perishable natural resource. Once you've lost a year's worth of the guy's labor, it never comes back, Charles. And their kids suffer, and all this other stuff suffers. I mean, all these social issues that you see are all in part a consequence of slow growth. I mean, it's so terrible, the consequences, and people are unhappy and depressed, and all of these consequences are just awful. We've got to get the economy really growing rapidly.
Yeah, you know,
and you can't do that with these policies.
I don't disagree with you. In fact, I think one of Hillary's, I think her new motto should be, if you like your economic condition, you can keep your economic condition. Right.
Yeah, I know. And why don't they? I mean, this is where I think Trump should just go full beat on the economy.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, we tax cigarettes to get people to stop smoking. We tax speeders to get them to stop speeding. Why on earth do we want to raise taxes on people who earn income, raise taxes on people who employ other people, and raise taxes on companies that make great products?
In a minute, you're going to make me break out my tangerine, buddy. I mean, come on. I mean, I'm going to get up and start shouting with you, buddy. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Well,
all right, Laffer.
and then
I got to let you go, though.
Thank you, Charles. It's great being with you.
All right, buddy. Tambourine.
Talk to you.
See you later.
Bye.